Welcome back to the Game Collection. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky first chapter a few months back. Trails in the Sky SC is a direct sequel, so this review may contain some very mild spoilers for first chapter, except for one point where I'll give you a proper warning, so be forewarned. Anyway, Trails in the Sky FC ended on quite the little cliffhanger. Naturally, it was only going to be a matter of time before I returned to the series to pick up where the story left off. I am SuperDerek, and this is The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky SC. Following the underwhelming sales figures of Trails in the Sky FC, the future of the series was hanging rather precariously in the West. Pairing that with the cliffhanger ending of the first chapter and, well, Western fans were waiting with bated breath for the second chapter. In 2015, 4 whole years after the release of the first chapter, we received our follow-up on the PlayStation Portable. Meanwhile, I could barely hold off for 4 whole months before diving back in. To the original fans of 2011, I salute you. But was second chapter worth the wait? Well, if the legions of dedicated fans today are any indication, yes. Yes, it was. Now, I'm about to talk briefly about the beginning of the story of Trails in the Sky SC a little bit, which ties into the endgame events of first chapter. This will contain some pretty major spoilers for the ending of Trails in the Sky first chapter, so if you're avoiding those spoilers, skip ahead to this timestamp. Go ahead, I'll wait. Trails in the Sky SC picks up immediately where FC left off. Joshua, remembering his past affiliation with the elite group of assassins, the Ouroboros, left Estelle with a gut-wrenching goodbye kiss for the ages. In an attempt to save her from his dark past, Joshua vanished with barely a trace. Estelle, now a full-fledged member of the Bracer Guild, is tasked by the guild with investigating a rash of strange occurrences across the familiar landscape, while she attempts to pick up the broken pieces of her shattered heart. Trails in the Sky tells a story with a bit more weight behind it than the first chapter, making FC feel more like a lighthearted appetizer to this game's main course. And I mean that both in the weight of the subjects tackled throughout the game and also in terms of duration. Whereas FC could be played through in a few dozen hours, SC was an endeavor that took over 100 hours for me to finish. Tonally, the game has shifted quite a bit as well. That happy-go-lucky shonen anime facade has worn through a bit, as I suspected it might, showing some of that darker, more sinister inner workings of this world's politics. More of the hidden pasts are revealed, more hidden motivations come to light, and it's all done slowly, painstakingly, and carefully. There were a few reasons that Trails in the Sky SC took so long to come to the West, and one of those reasons is the sheer volume of text that had to be translated and localized. The localizers of this game clearly put a lot of love and talented writing into Trails in the Sky's second chapter because the material contained within demanded that level of care and attention. It is definitely a fair criticism to say that, for a game, Trails in the Sky can be a bit wordy. The dialogue reads more like a book with playable chapters rather than a game with moments of reading. Not everybody loves to read through a tome whilst enjoying their mindless grinding sessions, and there's nothing really wrong with that. But if you are unsure if you have the attention span for a game with more text than the Lord of the Rings trilogy, this game may not be for you. However, if you're the kind of fan who can get sucked into a novel for hours, or accustomed to watching hours of subtitled anime at a time, I don't suspect you'll have a problem, especially if you, like I did, install the Evo fan mod, which adds Japanese voice acting to the game. I suspect that playing through the game without the talented cast of voice actors to flavor the text, I likely would have found the experience more exhausting and perhaps less impactful than I did. But it should also be noted that listening along with the voice acting would extend the duration of the game to well over 100 hours for you as it did for me. Personally speaking, I found the overarching story of the game to be just the right amount of predictable. The game was full of tropes that I instinctively knew were coming, but did so with a flourish that hit the mark for me. Sometimes throughout the game there were moments that I just knew were going to be ham-fisted, important discussions that were going to be hand-waved away, some unnatural dialogue. I knew that these things were coming because I'm so used to them existing in RPGs that try to get real. But to my surprise and amazement, those dreaded moments were actually dealt with. Those awful moments that I knew were coming never came. The question marks raised in previous games were given answers. And as someone who pushed through every single Kingdom Hearts game, it's a feeling I'm no longer accustomed to feeling. Now, granted, the game did provide us with a new set of questions unanswered, such is the nature of long-running interconnected RPG stories, after all. Because the story of Trails in the Sky SC is a direct sequel to FC, most of the characters that you know and love from FC make a return. Bigger and more bombastic than ever.
悲しいことだね。日の光映す虹の橋駆け渡り君の元へ求めれば空に溶けきれて寂しいと風が歌う届くことなどない儚い願いならせめて一つ傷を残そう初めての約束守らない約束君の吐息を琥珀にして永遠の夢閉じ込めよう
There are a couple of new characters introduced throughout the story that serve interesting roles that you'll want to keep an eye out for. Father Kevin, a wandering priest who looks and acts like a mix of Vash the Stampede and Wolfwood from Trigun, being the real standout newcomer. Of course I liked him, but in typical fashion for Trails in the Sky characters, there is more to this man that might at first meet the eye. I don't really know many ways to tell you how much I loved the characters, and how much of that was due in no small part to the way the voice actors portrayed each character throughout the game. Again, this requires that fan patch, affectionately referred to as the Evo mod in some circles.
Alright, so more about this voice mod. What is it exactly? Well, Trails in the Sky FC, SC, and the third all got remakes in Japan for the PlayStation Vita. Overall fondness for this port is sort of a mixed bag. The game plays fine and all, but people have different opinions about the portraits, different aesthetics overall, and some new cutscenes, and also it has this Japanese voice acting added to it. Well, that game was never ported over to the West, unfortunately. However, some industrious fans of the series managed to take all of the voice acting from the PlayStation Vita release and rig it up to work with the PC release of the game in the West. They also did something similar for the portraits and cutscenes if you wanted them, but I just wanted to add the voice acting. Legally speaking, this may or may not be a gray area of sorts, so it's probably not Falcom's favorite thing for players to do. So I won't go into detail about acquiring it or installing it, and I'm guessing there are better guides out there than I could put together here anyway. But if you're going to play the games on PC, you may as well really just indulge yourself in some of this glorious Japanese voice acting.
Mechanically, Trails in the Sky SC is nearly identical to FC in pretty much every way. It's a turn-based, semi-tactical RPG with attacks that affect enemies within a given target range, and magic that follows suit. There are also Final Fantasy-style limit breaks called S-crafts, which can be extremely devastating. However, in SC, Falcom did introduce new mechanics to the combat that add a new level of strategy to the mix. Now crafts can be combined with crafts from other characters into a combo. The benefit to this is you can have multiple characters use their craft skills all on the same turn, which is extremely helpful if you happen to use combos on a critical turn, or if you want to pull off massive amounts of damage all at once instead of spreading it out across a few turns. This new skill adds a different dynamic to consider during combat. I appreciate that the battle system remains largely the same for fans of the original, but shakes things up just enough to not utterly destroy me. One of the tropes that sometimes grinds my gears that Trails in the Sky navigated well enough was that whole being level 1 at the beginning of the game all over again thing. Instead of that happening here though, Trails in the Sky lets you import your cleared data from FC, which was super nice. You can carry over some things like NPCs that you talk to and stuff from the last game will remember you in this game. It's a very nice little nod from the world and the developers. But when the game also starts up, you're not just at level 1. You start off around the same level you were at the end of the last game. They introduced some MacGuffin related to the way arts technology has evolved as an excuse to strip you of all of your ordnance that you acquired during the first game, but it doesn't really take too long to feel like a total powerhouse again though. Honestly, I'm just glad that the game didn't make us still level 1 all over again. Well done. The world design of Trails in the Sky SC may be one of those aspects of the game that may be hit or miss for you. The game is literally part 2 of the first game for all intents and purposes. It wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense to redesign the entire world from FC. So they didn't. Trails in the Sky SC features the exact same world, cities, roads, etc. And if you are tired of it after FC, then you may not be pleased to hear this. However, it truly is a non-issue for me. I was happy to globetrot across the Liberal Kingdom all over again, and mercifully the game also cuts out a lot of that menial travel between towns, instead providing the player with free airship travel once all the main story events in a given area have played out. Speaking of quality of life improvements, one of the other highly necessary improvements that was introduced to the PC ports of Trails in the Sky that I neglected to mention during my review of FC is the introduction of the turbo button. With this turbo button, you can crank the game speed into high gear and zoom around the world map at the press of a button. Furthermore, it also works during battles. Pairing that with the fact that you can hold down a confirmation button to essentially auto-battle, you can get through the grind and the tedium with ease. One caveat to mention though is that when turbo mode is engaged, you may sometimes get stuck on a pixel and have to reload your last autosave. It happened to me twice in 100 hours. Luckily though, the fact that autosave kicks in every time you exit or enter a room or area means I never really lost any real progress to speak of. Visually, it is the same as Trails in the Sky FC, which is to say, great. If you're into the sort of thing that you see on screen, that quasi-evolution of the Grandia style aesthetic with characters that are 2D sprites on a polygonal world map, I dig it. I dig it quite a bit in fact. And know what else is the same? That amazing Falcom OST. The OST featured within SC has been a pleasure to listen to, with a lot of the same returning tracks, but a lot of new ones that are just fantastic. One of my favorite tracks being the Enforcer's theme song. It's the bomb.
Trails in the Sky SC did not end on a cliffhanger, this time, thankfully. Now I can play something else and let my brain finally relax. But because I enjoyed my time with the game so much, I'm positive that I'll be returning to the Liberal Kingdom in Trails in the Sky III before too long. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on that. As for Trails in the Sky SC though, well, people have often told me that it's their favorite game in the entire series, and I can see why. It's a fantastic game that is difficult to criticize. And by that I mean that basically everything that it wants to do, it does well. The developers set out to accomplish something that they had in mind, and they achieved that. Sure, not all of those things are going to appeal to everybody, but judging the game for what it is, it's a modern-day masterpiece. And that's why Trails in the Sky SC has earned itself a spot in the game collection. Oh, and by the way, if you are also a fan of Trails in the Sky series, I did record an audiobook from the series of Carnelia that you might find an interesting listen. I'll link to it up here, so give it a watch, spread it around, and there's a pretty good chance I might make more. Anyway, thanks for watching.